Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Canada. This is kushalmehra. As always, I have with me Daniel Bordmand. I know the thumbnail has the photo of Wyatt Claypool, but he had a family function to attend. So at the last moment, he had to bail out. We apologize for that, but the podcast goes on as always. So we had a provincial election in Ontario.
Did we?
And I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, okay.
What?
Technically, people
All,
voted, and there was, yeah.
well, what? 48% people turned up and voted?
I mean, it
48%?
wasn't much of a show. It was just,
No, I mean
the Doug Ford
compared to
alignment.
compare. I mean, all right, not 48, 45.4. I mean, this is 99.93% of the polls that has been reported. That is 8,073 polling stations out of 8,079. So I'm assuming it's going to go to 46%. But I mean, it still did not clock 50%. Maybe let's start over there. All right. So 22 was an outlier because of COVID. We had a 33% turnout in Ontario. That was horrific because of
Yeah.
COVID, right? People just didn't turn up.
Yeah,
But now,
there was the other thing is both. Listen, I think everyone knows, or a lot of people, most people know my opinions on Doug Ford. They're not positive, but
well, the title of this podcast is "Fact Trudeau Wins."
yeah, I saw, and I appreciated that. I'm the one who came with that. Listen, it has been one of my life goals to see hashtag Fat Trudeau trend on Twitter. I have put that out there, and there is a Zionist conspiracy, which is me, to do that. That being said, you got to respect his ability to play politics in Canada, just in the system. He compromised all his values or all the things he claimed to stand on, but he got himself over the finish line, two times. So the COVID election, there was no distinction. Same with this election. There was no distinction between the major political parties on any of the key issues, right? Doug Ford was like the harshest lockdown guy in the Western world. And he ran on, I locked it in really bad, but these lunatics would lock you down even harder. And they said, yes, we would have. The lockdowns weren't enough. We need to kill anyone who isn't like triple vaccinated at this point. And then he got to be like, okay, look at these lunatics. So there was no key distinction on the key issue. So people just stuck with the incumbent. And most conservative voters said, okay, if the Liberals are going to promise to be crazier than conservatives, I guess at least there's some ministers and some people in the government who somewhat agree with me and say taxes are bad sometimes. Okay. That's the exact same story as this election. And, I make fun of the conservatives a lot. I think how many times have you heard me rant about how stupid the Conservative Party is at politics? Trillions, billions, who knows? So the fact that Doug Ford actually understood that, hey, here's where I have a massive key issue, which is Donald Trump and the tariff threat. No one's going to try and beat me or can beat me to the left or right on this, right? If I come out and I go super tariffs, we're going to fight Donald Trump so hard, put me in the match with Donald Trump, I'm going to come out swinging, I'm going to bring a bazooka. No one's allowed to have guns but me because I'm going to use them on Donald Trump. What, are the Liberals going to come out and be like, actually, we should reason with the Trump administration a little bit better and, balance our own economic liberty against the potential offset of tariffs, which are really a tax, if you think about it. And then low and high taxes reduce investment and blah, blah, blah. We need lower tax. The Liberals and the NDP aren't going to say that. So the key issue, again, which was Trump, he got to set the pace. Again, Poilievre learned about this. He literally set the pace. He's like, this is literally what the election is going to be about. It's about a mandate for Trump. The entire media was on a thing because they needed it for Trudeau. Trudeau needed the media, this narrative. The media needed this narrative. Doug Ford gave it to them, snuck his election in right before the federal Liberal, federal election, right? So there's one window before the federal election to just sort of do a stealth election and gain 2 more years of a majority. And, kudos to him for figuring that one out. I yell at a lot of Canadian politicians being stupid and bad at the Conservatives. The Federal Conservative Party is a party of losers, and most Conservatives in the system in Canada are losers, philosophical losers. I mean, addicted to losing. They know how to lose. They plan on how to lose. They plan in a controlled loss. They're really good losers. They're top tier, expert level losers, high-class losers. The best losers in the world are the Canadian Conservatives, except Doug Ford. Doug Ford's a winner. I have to give him that. He wants to win. Doug Ford wants power. He wants to be premier. He's trying to win. And hey, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, so just for the audience that doesn't know, so the total number of seats in the provincial parliament of Ontario are 124, and this time the progressive conservatives under Doug Ford secured approximately 43% of the vote, and they got 80 seats, down 3 from last time. The New Democrats got 27 seats and approximately 19% vote, down 4. Liberals came up 6. All right, they got around 30% of the vote. The Greens got almost 5%, up 1 seat, 2, and there was one independent that won. Now, compared to let's say 2022, where Doug Ford's party had a majority with 83 seats and a vote of 40.8%. NDP had 31 under Andrea Horwath. Liberals under Stephen Del Duca had 8 seats and 23%. Listen, the Liberal vote share did go up significantly, and so did Doug Ford's vote go up. Liberals a lot more, 7%. Doug Ford's approximately 2.5%. NDP lost a lot of its vote. So a lot of the NDP vote seems to have gone to the Liberals. A lot of it, a giant chunk of the NDP vote has gone to the Liberals.
Yeah, that's a natural thing. Like the Ontario Liberal brand was so toxic when Doug Ford took over and got his first majority. Everyone was so tired of the Liberals. They had really destroyed the economy. The way I put it is like, Ontario had like a decade worth of Liberal leadership. It's very similar to the federal Liberals. This is the story of Canadian politics. And if you're Gen Z, you probably never even heard this stuff before. But what would happen? And this is like there'd be, an administration to take over. The Libs would start to be plagued with scandals. A leader would resign. They do a new cabinet minister come to leader. The media would pretend that everyone who resigned was the sole culprit of whatever corruption. They'd say, "Oh, look, it's a new party. They do a new thing," and then people would go to that new Liberal Party once more, and then it would be all more of the same. It would tank. The Ontario did this. Dalton McGuinty became Kathleen Wynne, and Wynne left in this like first historical 14%. Like approval rating, like dastardly numbers. And they lost official party status because the people, Ontario was gutted and destroyed, and industries and all assets sold off, spending held, debt traps, non-sovereign debt, an absolute disaster. Those people who concocted the scandals and put in the Ontario economic policies, those who didn't go to jail for the gas plant scandal, went into the 2015 Justin Trudeau federal Liberals. So the same people who are the major architects of Canada's decline and Trudeauism in the last 10 years, this was practiced in Ontario as the testing ground before it was turned into a national project. And once the full Trudeau project had run its course in Ontario, like we were destitute, energy prices were up, green nonsense, blah, 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 there's an absolute nuking of the Liberal Party. But there is a natural affinity towards liberals because, they're moderate. People forget. But I think that what you're seeing is like there's a natural, like the Liberals are dead, just a natural, they're the red team sort of coming back to life as more Gen Z people and people forget the Kathleen Wynne years. And, you have people who never really experienced politics then. Most people are coming into politics post-COVID anyway, right? So trying to explain to them the economics of 2014 is like, might as well be quoting ancient mythology. But that's, I think, what you're seeing in this Ontario election, because, the Liberals came back, but what a terrible vote efficiency for the Liberals.
And I just want to correct myself. I misspoke. I wanted to say 43% in the last provincial election, which was, by the way, a record low. But that was due to COVID. But then this year, we did not improve that much in Ontario, which is a very surprising thing. Like I'm just giving you a historical journey, right? Since 1980, the range has been between 51 and 64%, with the exception of 2011, where 48% of the eligible voters went to polls. and it's kind of disappointing that the voting percentages in Ontario have been so low. I would have thought that Ontario would have done something to, like, why don't people vote, man? Like,
Well,
I just don't understand.
like, listen, for this one, I knew people who I talked to, like especially conservatives. A lot of people said, why, like, yeah, I want to vote and all that, but like, there's a lot of, hey, I what's the point, right? Again, what was the defining issue in this election? Trump, tariffs. What was everyone's position? Exactly the same. What was the defining issue in the previous election in Ontario? It was COVID. Everyone was, I'm Big Daddy. It was, I'm going to lock you down. 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 People couldn't vote for freedom. It was just, super lockdowns or super duper lockdowns. And this one was, I'm going to fight Trump versus I'm going to fight Trump. Whereas no, I'm going to fight Trump. So none of these, the past two Ontario elections weren't about anything, and the previous one was about getting rid of the Liberals. So Doug Ford has just cruised to victory in Ontario off of just politicsing it.
Yeah, so let me just share an interesting bit for you. This is the Stars final spread. But I just wanted to share some region-wise spread where these guys have won the votes, where they've not won the votes, that kind of stuff. Shit, the Star being the Star. Now it doesn't let me open. What a piece of shit. Wow. I can share
Terrible.
this page, but not the other page. All right, I'll share the other page, I guess. They're going to make me share the other page. Oh, stupid Toronto Star.
This is where Wyatt's the best at. Wyatt is a savant at looking at polling data and where it goes down. So the interesting thing here is to talk about. So the Conservatives won, the majority held 83 to 80 is relatively the same, right? 63 is a majority, so there's 17 plus. That's a strong majority. Bobby Ann Brady, I want to shout out. We have an independent won a seat. Do you know about Bobby Ann Brady, the future Queen of Canada?
Yes.
What a champ.
All right. So this is what I wanted to show you. Look at this. So Northern Ontario, we have an even Stevens between the NDP and the Conservatives, right?
Yeah.
In Toronto, you have the Liberals have made made their dent, because Toronto is their bastion, right? But the Conservatives have one significant chunk. They swept GTA, Daniel. You know what GTA is. For those who don't know,
the GTA is like
is where the Indian voters, Indian origin people voters. Okay.
Yeah.
The brown people vote. They have all voted for Doug Ford, man. Look at it. There's just one riding. That's it for the Liberals and the NDP. They just swept the minority area. Swept. Yeah. And then obviously Southwest, Hamilton and Niagara, he's pretty much held his own. Eastern Ontario, the Liberals have held their own. Central Ontario is all conservative. All conservative.
Yeah. I mean, what this shows is like the interesting thing is the GTA vote. The GTA vote going blue. That bodes very well for the federal Conservative Party, showing that these people have.
Yeah, so that was my question to you. I wanted to ask you that these people often accuse people of voting Liberal. Look at the ridings. The ridings where the brown people stay, as per this map, the brown people stay, ladies and gentlemen, the brown people stay in this area, and I'm just going to take you guys there. This is the area where the brown people stay. Brampton and Mississauga. Look at Brampton and Mississauga, Dan.
Yeah.
It's all conservative. All conservative. Just this one bit, maybe. Just this one little area. This comes in Toronto, I think. But look at all of Brampton and Mississauga. Even Oakville.
Well, Oakville.
Everything
is whitey land.
Yeah, Oakville is whitey land with rich brown people.
Yeah.
The rich brown people live in Oakville with rich white people. Even brown people have segregation, right? All you plebeians, you can go to Mississauga.
Yeah, and if you make it in Princeton, you get to move to
When
the
we
likes
become
of
multi-millionaires,
Oakville.
we go to Oakville.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, I know a few over there, brown people, the rich as fuck brown people who live there. Like, oh my God, it's just insane. He swept this entire area. Swept.
Yeah.
But
Now,
then what does it say
the
about the
counter
brown
to
man's
that
thinking?
is, like, you could say, okay, are brown people conservative? Now, the other thing is Doug Ford is very prone to be playing, you know, ethnic politics, we could say, and not the good kind. So you can say, you know, is it Doug Ford, or is there some, you know, listen, Doug Ford does not fight the extremists in these communities. He jumps into bed with them. So you can juxtapose that maybe on a different thing, but also I think it shows that I think the vast majority of these communities aren't lunatics across the board. And
No,
when you take
obviously.
the federal government out of it, I think they're very conservative, because the only thing that might stop them is, you know, this whole fight with India. Like, this is seen as more a federal issue, maybe. The sort of fights with India.
No, they would vote conservative. I can guarantee you they're gonna all vote. This pattern is gonna hold even in the coming federal election, and we'll discuss whatever the fuck is happening over there. But I can pretty much see this pattern holding this time. Listen, the liberals have lost the minority vote, at least the Indian community vote. They have lost that vote because the liberals are so stupid. They thought that Khalistani support base amongst the Indian Hindu and Sikh, because what is the Indian community over there? They're either Hindu or Sikh over there. There are barely any Indian origin Muslims in Canada and Indian origin Christians in Canada. It's basically the Hindu and Sikh vote of Indian origin, and they keep making the mistake of assuming that, you know, there is this giant community over there that loves loves Khalistan, and they keep making that mistake, and they double down on it. And the conservatives are not so brazen in their Khalistanism, so the Indian vote just went there. And now what the Indians do with it is a separate issue. Don't ask me those questions, because I have no answers to that. I have no answers to them. But yeah, so it's very important that. But what do you make of Toronto, where the Liberals have still made a few ridings theirs? Like
Well, I mean,
Don
that's
Valley, they won
Toronto.
Don Valley. So I'll tell you where the Liberals won. They won Don Valley. They won Don Valley East, Don Valley West, St. Paul's. Then they won Beaches, East York.
Midtown
Then
Urbanite.
Etobicoke.
Midtown Urbanites.
They won Etobicoke Lakeshore. Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Yeah.
And Scarborough Guildwood. So they
Yeah,
won
I think
pretty
it
much
shows
all
that
those areas.
the Liberals won the wealthy elites, and it looks like the NDP won the more socialist, or let's say like more. Yeah, the Liberals won the wealthier urban areas, and the NDP seemed to do better in the less, what you would describe as liberal elitist centers.
Shout out to Ivan for reminding me of this. Let's not forget Bonnie Cromby's comment on not campaigning on Brampton. Look what happened.
Oh yeah, that is true. The literal. Yeah.
I'm not from Brampton.
Oh, this is an actual funny story. Like and it's like, I hate Bonnie Crombie. Okay, she's the mayor of Mississauga. she's a part of the Muslim Brotherhood, as far as I'm concerned, and she's a joke. And like, all the woke like capitulate to all the blah blah extra. Yeah, she's that. She's the worst. I mean, tied for worst with like 800 other people in Canada. But she's like one of those maximum terrible politicians, liberals. She was up against it for her seat. She was the leader of the Liberal Party in Ontario. She lost her seat. You know who she lost her seat to?
Mm-hmm.
Patrick
Let me see.
Mother-in-law.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate on stereo. It's the ultimate. Who does Daniel hate?
So what's her seat? Tell me her seat in Mississauga.
Oh yeah. Look it up.
See, I can go one by one in Mississauga. How about this? Let me go one by one in Mississauga. So Lakeshore was won by Rudy Cozzetto. Then Mississauga Center was won by Natalia Kuzendova. East Cooksville, Sylvia Gutelleri. Then we have Malton. Deepak Anand won. Damn, he won again. Deepak Anand. I know who Deepak Anand. Nah.
Sylvia Gutelleri, Mississauga East Cooksville.
East Cooksville.
Mississauga East Cooksville. That the winner, Patrick Brown's mom won it. Is that the same as Eager Khalid? Let me just check that. I want to see. I think that's
Erin Mills was won by Sharef Sabawi. Streetsville, Mississauga was won by Nina Tangri.
Well, it was the person who won it is Patrick Brown's mother-in-law, Sylvia Gulatini. That's Patrick Brown's mother-in-law. So Patrick.
Oh, Bonnie Cromby lost. Yeah, she lost by 3%.
She lost. Yeah, she lost.
Let's celebrate.
That's what I'm saying. She lost.
Let's celebrate. Let's put the number up.
Oh, Mississauga, Aaron. That wasn't Equal Khalid's thing. Yeah.
So she gets
Sylvia Gulatini. This she lost her seat to Patrick Brown's mother-in-law. That's the most Ontario politics thing to ever happen.
So Bonnie Crombie, and this is a reasonable vote difference, right?
Yeah, it's not in recount territory.
Yeah, it's not in recount territory. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. And nobody can complain that, oh, the Green Party took my votes or the NDP took my votes. The gap is statistically significant. Oh, nice. Bonnie Crombie lost. That's so good. But that shows there was a clear wave for the Conservative Party. The clear wave, whether we like it or not. I just wanted to look at all the candidates in Brampton. Brampton Centre, Charmaine Williams won. Brampton North, Graham McGregor wins. Amarjot Sandhu wins Brampton West. Brampton South, Prabmeet Sarkaria. You know who Prabmeet is. We don't need to.
Yep.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's Brampton and Mississauga. So yeah. So it's not that brown people don't vote for white folks. They clearly vote for white folks if they want to. If they get
I told that straight up to Melissa in front of a bunch of brown people the other night. It was when brown people will vote for a white guy who speaks English more than some ethnic nonsense. Like they're like, oh, she's like, we have Shiv Majumdar. I'm like, yeah, that's for white people. Shiv's for white people. If you want to get into the brown people, you need white people. People are. Oh well, can't teach little dog.
All right, so let's now. Okay, enough. Now let's talk about the federal elections. Okay, what did I tell you? What did I tell you that this piece of work? I'm being very careful with my words. Was not going to let an election happen. What did I tell you? Elections were not going to happen. They were never going to happen. And this piece of work was never going to make it happen. And this is Jagmeet Singh. When he was asked the question, this is his reply. I knew he was going to do this.
First of all, I want to make it really clear. We're prepared to support measures that help working people. First, let's get that done. And election is secondary to that. So we're prepared to do that. We think it's important. I can't imagine any opposition leader, the crisis that we're up against, who wouldn't want to see supports in place for working people who are right now worried that they're going to lose their jobs because of this tariff and this trade war.
Basically says he's not going to trigger an election.
Well, yeah, this is obvious. Jagmeet doesn't want an election. Now, the one thing that can trigger an election, the savior is Mark Carney. Mark Carney is the only one who might want an election right away. Now, like, what are Mark Carney's motivations? And does Mark Carney just want sort of the golden business card? Hey, Mark Carney, former Prime Minister of Canada, and he just needs to be Prime Minister for 15 minutes and get in, get out. So here's the math from, okay, why does Jagmeet not want an election? Because the NDP is about to get obliterated, because the anti-Trump votes consolidating the Liberals and the anti-Liberal votes consolidating in the Conservatives. So who do you hate more, Justin Trudeau or Donald Trump, is the question on people's minds. And depending on your answer to that question, you will vote for neither Justin Trudeau nor Donald Trump. But such is the reality of Canadian politics. Mark Carney, if he wants to win an election, should call an election as soon as possible. Because if Mark Carney starts to be Prime Minister for a few months and acts like the king and starts to implement policies, then he can be tied to everything that's going on. And when the election comes unchanged, he'll get obliterated and he'll go back to where the numbers Trudeau was likely before this whole thing started. However, if he comes in and he is Prime Minister, and then he immediately says, okay, guys, we need an election. We need unity. We need to stand up to Donald Trump. You're right. This can't be whatever. We need an election at the time where his popularity is at the most high, because he'll have the, oh, he's new, he's changed, and the, well, he's the incumbent already, right? He is Prime Minister. He'll be called Prime Minister Carney during the debate and be referred to as Mr. Prime Minister, and that is his best shot at winning. So if Mark Carney wants to be Prime Minister, win an election, and be an actual Prime Minister, he should call an election right away, with Jagmeet being obliterated, looking like a fool, and then playing the sort of anti-Trump card to the max, and saying, I'm new, I'm outside the system, I'm a European banker, give me all your money. We're going to, one last hurrah, guys. We're going to print $1 bajillion and give half of it to me to fight Donald Trump. Who's with me? And, you know, Toronto and Montreal and Ottawa and Vancouver will be like, rah! So that's the Mark Carney dilemma. And if you want to actually implement things and say, hey, I don't think I'm going to win anyway, if he doesn't think he's going to win anyway, and this is really just like the golden business card, and Jagmeet Singh is going to sort of bridge the election, then you can force there's a by-election in Halifax that he can try and run in to get a seat in Parliament, and then ride this thing out till October. I guess, but like the problem again, though, is there isn't enough time to do anything with the legislature. Like, there's not enough time to create a new government, start putting bills in motion, then the election gets called, which kills all the bills and goes forward. Like, unless he can take some extreme emergency powers, like Jagmeet's going to help him reenact the Emergencies Act, and he's going to get to sort of get his hands in the guts of the country and really rip out some of the gears and sell the copper wire to Brookfield or whatever it is. They do it. So it really depends, like, what is Mark Carney's plan here? Because Mark Carney, if he wants to do well in an election, that the Liberal goal is to sort of maybe create a conservative minority or limited, a small conservative majority. So they still have to listen to the Muslim Brotherhood and the Khalistanis and the Chinese and all the foreign hostile powers that the Liberals are basically more in bed with and can work with in the shadows. Then you call an election right away. So I'm still 50-50 on the election, and it really depends on what Mark Carney decides he wants to do.
Yeah, here was Justin Trudeau saying this is his last public appearance.
It's a touching moment for me. This will be my last public event as Prime Minister. So I'm.
Look at her smiling.
It's my last one till Sunday night anyway. So it is a big moment for me to be home here in Montreal, able to do this.
So goodbye. Nobody misses you. I think Canada is better off without you. But on the federal election, I'm kind of confused because the numbers on the federal election bit are so confusing. Different polls in Canada. I don't know who's saying what, who's saying and who's right and who's wrong. There is such a variation in the poll and polling firms in Canada. Like, make sense of this. What the hell is this? How can there be so much variation?
Oh, this is a great Wyatt question. Ecos started doing these outlier polls, and Frank Graves, who runs Ecos, is like
Ecos and Ipsos both.
Yeah. Ecos, I'm not sure what it is, but Ecos started this whole thing by being crazy, and then being the first ones to do that. Ecos was sort of like I give it to the conspiracy thinking, like I'm there. Ecos was a psyop, a fake poll put by the establishment to show some liberal momentum for the media to capitalize on and to shift the political narrative. That's what Ecos was. I don't think it's in any way legitimate. Occam's razor is they pushed it there. But now, as things been going, we've seen a 20-point lead turn into, at best, a 13-point lead. And the polling is wildly off. Now, a lot of this can be like, okay, we've seen there's very interesting stats in Canada. Boomers in Canada are very, very liberal. And young people are very conservative right now. The Canadian youth are conservative. They don't want this anymore. But the liberal boomers, the liberals are good. Oh, conservatives are scary. Canada is liberal. Oh my God, Trump. CNN tells me it's scary. They watch, right? They're more likely to have landlines, be called at home, watch traditional media, do this and that. So there is some natural sampling bias that might skew towards the liberals in Canada right now, with boomers who are much more likely to be polled in a traditional way going liberal, because again, they own homes. So a lot of the inflation isn't really, it's, also increasing the value of their home. And again, our economy is a money laundering scheme called real estate. So if you had real estate purchases and held good real estate before we inflated the real estate market with fentanyl, drug money, organized crime, all the bad things in the world, right? You can invest in Canadian real estate. This is how it's snow washing, money laundering. So when I talk about Canada being the money laundering capital of at least the West, and having snow washing, the way you wash your money is often through real estate, right? So you have people just dumping money. And this was very big. The Chinese were very influential in this because Chinese people like to invest in real estate and find real estate. Like Indians like gold, Chinese like real estate. I know this is racial stuff, but this is one of the more benign things you can talk about. So they just ghost cities in China is a problem because of this, but they're sort of creating these sort of pseudo ghost cities in Vancouver. It started where you have just Chinese investors owning properties that no one really lives in. And then you also have massive housing increases because we're not building more houses. We have tons of immigrants, yada, yada, yada. I see we have a super chat.
So just give me a moment. Talking about bias. I'm sorry, I forgot to play this clip. I apologize. I'm taking you back only for 2 minutes to the wonderful Doug Ford election. Like, imagine having to defend Doug Ford, but listen to this great analysis.
Yeah, listen, to the point I was making to the panel, I don't think that Doug Ford can look at this result and not take some sort of message from it. Yes, the message can be, people still like me. I have a mandate now to go ahead and deal with Donald Trump. But I think it would be foolish to not also take from the results tonight. I have to be careful. I have to be careful with the decisions I'm making. I have to listen to the opposition parties here, and I have to be held to account by them. And when they do that, I need to be responsive. This is not the sweeping supermajority that we've been talking about.
Yes.
This is a majority that is important and significant, with a little bit of a flashing yellow light, I would say to him.
Dude, how do you take these people seriously? Like, how do you? This is political analysis in Canada. This is not CBC.
When I listen to Rosemary Barton talk, I want
man won a third election. The man, gotta give to the man, right? He's won a third straight election, for fuck's sake.
And listen, if he won a 67 seat majority and 63, you go, okay, he's close to the line. If the NDP can push 5 MPs on something crazy, he always, what are you talking about? What are 17? You know how spineless Canadian politicians are? Politicians in general.
This was Rosie Barton, by the way. Come on, seriously. Oh, this is so like, this is so irritating. Like, why do they do this? Why do they do this? They make it yell.
They just set up for, like, they're just hacks. They're just Liberal Party hacks. And this is like how, like, the conspiracy theorist in me says this also kind of helps Doug Ford. And like Doug Ford has sort of sold out to the Liberals, the federal Liberals. My hope is that, you know, Doug Ford's just such a sellout. He'll whoever is his daddy, he'll bow to, right? So he keeps all his underlings in line, but he stays in line with the Liberals because they have power. The thought is, if Pierre gets power in the federal Conservative Party and the federal Conservatives a strong majority, he might then cave to the federal Conservative Party and be an offshoot of the federal Conservative Party. Who knows? Okay, where am I going? So Rosemary Barton, I think she helps him by doing the Liberal panic over Ford to sort of keep his conservative facade intact. So people on our side of the aisle, my side of the aisle, on the right go, oh, look, Doug Ford's so base because they're saying crazy things about him. Right? So that
Doug Ford said he's going to cut electricity off, right? That's what he said.
Yeah, he's going to turn the lights off. And listen, you know what? Again, I don't like most of the things Doug Ford does, but I would be inconsistent in my philosophy if I didn't at least give some praise for the I'm going to turn the lights off talk, because at least it's maximalistic and it's not a half measure. I hate half measures. I think I say that a lot. At least Doug Ford, with shutting down energy, is proposing a harsh measure. Now, we can debate the merits of this and the logistics and, you know, what would cause, you know, short-term pain, long-term gain so much, but we are in the middle of a war. Again, to be fair to Doug Ford and to Justin Trudeau, Canada didn't start this trade war. Yes, Canada's a ridiculous place. Yes, Canada's run by a bunch of clowns. Yes, Canada's lax on every issue of extremism, drugs, crime, social, like all the woke nonsense. We've done it. But we're so close to being out of it and rid of it that for Doug Ford, for Donald Trump to start this. And again, Trump started this. Okay. Yes, the Liberals hectored him and it was stupid. And the trolling of Canada, I say the trolling is deserved, right? The country deserves Justin Trudeau deserves a trolling. I can get behind that. But an outright trade war is a problem. And if you're going to defer war,
this is what is happening right now. I have a special video. I have a 4-second clip for this. This is what's happening between America and Canada.
Tariffs on Canada are on. Tariffs on Canada are off.
That's all that is happening. Tell me it's not happening this way. I made a special video for it. He just keeps taking rose petals out. Tariffs on, tariffs off. Tariffs on, tariffs off.
Yeah, this is bad. Like, this is bad. This is bad for America too, and it's bad for the world. Bad, really bad for Canada. But like, one of the reasons why economies do better in the West, one of them, it's built, but it maintains its stability, and the perception of long-term stability really helps an economy, right? Economies are a lot of predictions and hypothesis. To have the destabilization by the unpredictability of Donald Trump, at some things it's good. In some instance of foreign policy and of domestic policy, you need to have sort of the will he, won't he, you know, that true, there's a difference between being sort of like a gunslinger and a maverick and a wild man or a madman, let's say. So the perception that Donald Trump could do anything is really important because it allows you the sort of threat of doing something to keep people in line. It gives you a good threat and a good bluff to use. But by using it too much and going left, going right, going left, going right, you're reducing the value of those threats, and also you're just introducing a high level of erraticness to the American markets that are going to detract and push away investors. That's a fact of life, and not to mention the tariffs themselves are a stupid economic policy. right? Why do I complain about Canada being such a silly place so much? Because Canada is a country that's silly enough that effectively, not officially, but effectively tariffs itself, right? Most of our trade is with the states. We don't trade, provinces don't trade with each other because everything's such a bureaucratic, over-regulated nightmare that we effectively have, again, it's easier to get things from Ontario to Europe than it is from Ontario to Quebec, and we share a land border. What the hell?
Yeah, they just refused. In the last part, we had discussed how Quebec said no to the pipeline. How nice of Quebec.
This is the other thing. I just fuck the Team Canada. Like everyone's usually think, oh, Team Canada, Team Canada. Can't we yell at the French? If we're going to be Team Canada, can't we yell at the French? Can't someone say no pipeline, no equalization payment? Can't someone heck to the French of like, okay, it's either if you're French Canadian, now's the time to get on board. Shut the fuck up with all this stuff. But no, part of Canadian society, part of Canadian politics that we all have to know and love, and even because thank God it's not Trump, is just the French hamstringing us at every turn and making demands when we're vulnerable. The French just have to hamstring the country just because they're allowed to. What the hell? Where's the unity? So I'm just supposed to, I'm supposed to yell at Alberta for not.
I'm just going to play a few clips now. Okay. Donald Trump has lost it. Honestly, he's lost it.
Tremendous tariff on lumber and things as such. And yet we don't need their lumber. We have more lumber than they
Oh
do.
my God.
We don't need Canada's lumber. So what I'm doing is I'll be signing an executive order freeing up our forests so that we're allowed to take down trees and make a lot of money and then reharvest trees. Also, we're cutting fire divides. A fire divide is a 50-yard to 70-yard swath where the trees can't, it's long enough so trees don't burn forever until you can get them out. And those trees can be sold and made a lot of money with. So, but we'll be doing that. We don't need trees from Canada. We don't need cars from Canada. We don't need energy from Canada. We don't need anything from Canada.
We don't need any. But we want Canada to be the 51st state.
Be self-sustaining, which is in most things. Look, we have more oil and gas than anybody. Our forests are massive forests. We're just not allowed to use them because of the environmental lunatics that stopped us. So I'm going to be freeing that up very shortly so that we don't have to go to other countries to buy lumber. Why should we be buying lumber from other countries, paying tariffs, paying big prices, extraordinary prices? And we have lumber. We have the best lumber. Go ahead.
We have the best lumber. You know what? They have the best lumber. Did you know American wood, when you touch it, you get a boner when you touch American wood?
I mean, one of the things he goes on is like notorious. Like again, you might have more lumber, but not all lumber is the same. There are different types of trees that grow in different types of places and different types of climates. Softwood lumber, for example, is known as a much better quality in Canada because of the specific climate, because it's colder up here. So blah 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 blah, and the years in the soil and da 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 da.
Okay, there are 2-3 things. Now, this was reported by CTV. Look, we have to share this. Look, it's our job as people who cover the news to share these things, right? So this was another thing in the news.
Canadian snowbirds are being advised to pay close attention to a new rule coming into effect south of the border, requiring them to be registered with U.S. immigration.
The day Donald Trump took office, he signed an executive order that amid all the recent tariff chaos didn't get much attention. Called Protecting the American People Against Invasion, it's aimed at curbing illegal immigration, but includes Canadians, requiring, quote, all aliens over 14 who remain in the U.S. for 30 days or longer to be registered and potentially fingerprinted. It's possible Canadians will just have to register their address and travel plans on a website, but the details aren't yet available, and it's a change that's created confusion.
People are very worried.
It's one more thing that may cause some Canadians to rethink going south. Already, some are boycotting U.S. travel. Though Florida's governor this week made fun of that and noted last year 3 million Canadians visited Florida.
That's not much of a boycott in my book. Maybe they wanted to get a glimpse of what a Stanley Cup winning hockey team actually looks like.
Oh my God.
I respect him on that line.
Listen, what are we come down to? Why are Canada and America? Okay, first of all, talking about snowbirds. My in-laws are snowbirds, damn it. and then go to Florida. What the hell is happening? What is America doing? Why is America doing this?
So I was putting on this. I was going to put in a tweet eventually, but so one of the major characteristics of the Trump 1.0, and a real, you could argue, the most damaging element to society in Trump 1.0 was TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. And Trump derangement syndrome was a real thing, is a real thing, right? It's people who, no matter what Trump says, are instantly are just deranged, mentally lose their critical theory, critical functioning when they hear Trump, and everything Trump says, the opposite must be true because Trump is evil. And when you go into that mindset, you become deranged because you're just opposing Donald Trump at every possible point. He's saying left, he's saying right, and you're just, then it's there, it's back. The most famous example for this was when the Democrats attacked Trump and voted against Trump when he said killing Iranian civilians is bad, right? Trump said the regime in 2019 was shooting unarmed peaceful protesters. The regime said, yes, we're shooting them not just in the head, but also in the legs. And then the Democrats condemned him for being against murdering civilians because Trump derangement syndrome. That was a real thing. It still is. There was another thing that people don't want to admit that I call Trump adoration disorder, or TAD. This is the process in which, why you are fervently a religious believer of Donald Trump, you adamantly follow everything he says, thinking it is right. And even as Trump goes in different circles, you're defending all of them consistently. And then you become sort of a lunatic. I think Trump adoration disorder is going to be the biggest problem of the Trump 2.0 era, whereas Trump derangement syndrome was the problem with 1.0. I think he is too surrounded with, I think everyone is giving it, there's too much positive feedback. I think kicking him off of social media in 2020 after the election it's gonna prove to be one of the most disastrous decisions ever made, and the prosecution of Donald Trump. Because had you just let Donald Trump, stand around and then go away and then continue to tweet insane shit, he would have had to say that insane shit to the entire world, and then we would have had a thing of it. But you pushed him into True Social, into his own little echo chamber, where he was able to sign up like a couple million people to True Social and his little circle, that the only people he was talking to for 4 years were the hardcores, the true believers, the ride or dies. And he's come out of that with, and people were loyal to him, and hey, the deep state almost killed him. They shot him. Now, was Hillary Clinton behind this? But it was either Hillary or 5 other Hillarys. We all saw it, right? He shot on national TV. The bullet almost went in his head. There were people like, hey, there's a gunman up there. Excuse me, security teams. That guy has a gun pointed at the president. Excuse me. Hey, that guy has a gun pointed at the president. And oh, he's just a lone wolf. No further investigation needed. Woo! And then the media ignored it. So I get why Donald Trump is keeping some voices out and letting some voices in. Makes a lot of sense.
Donald Trump should not listen to the voices in his head. That's the most dangerous.
But this is, I think I told you my theories. When it comes to especially what we do, political commentary, in our game, and the people we know of low repute, negative comments online can be harmful in social media and reduce your self-esteem. Cyberbullying is it important? Blah 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 blah. Negative comments suck, but the more dangerous comments in this sphere are always the positive ones, right? Because it's easier to lose your mind when being love bombed by a large amount of people than it is. You can kind of go crazy being attacked all the time, but there aren't a lot of natural defenses to the love bombing you get of oh, you're so smart, you're the greatest, da 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 da. And I think you have some of Trump doing that, where the old Trump razzle dazzle. He kind of did it within a bit of a chains in the box in the system, and there were some checks and balances, and he kind of let some Pompeo do some of the work on foreign policy here, and then he just said lower taxes. We're gonna have the least amount of taxes beautiful tax cut, huge tax cut, the most precious tax cut. Obama would never cut your taxes. So when he was able to kind of just do that and then veer into something crazy, and then people would be like, yeah, Mr. President, and then the guardrails will kind of hold because he go on to something else. Here, he kind of has full reign, where like every whim is being indulged to the maximum. So it's very different than Trump 1.0, and I think that's that might be the downfall of MAGA potentially. Like that's where I see the danger in MAGA coming is, yeah, you've defeated the wokes, you defeated the fourth Obama term, right? Obama was finally defeated. They tried to do the Obama law. The Democrats will come back with something new, and you already see Gavin Newsom doing a pivot on a lot of these core social issues. Yeah, trans men playing in women's sports is not fair, but we should also be kinder at how we talk about it. They're pivoting. The Democrats are going to figure out a pivot. There will always be progressive woke lunatics holding strong in there, but they'll figure out a pivot. And if Trump can't govern well, he's not going to the cultural gains and he's made aren't going to last.
Yeah, and you would have thought that Canada would handle this situation in a very nice way, but I think this was the quintessential Canadian response. I'm not saying, but I don't know who this person is, but okay, why are we living in such stupid times? Why are we living in such stupid times? Did you see this?
Oh, this.
Really? Americano is going to become Canadiano now? That's what we're going to do? Americano coffee is going to be called Canadiano. Can we have some adults in the room? This must be a Trudeau supporter.
This is, I mean, fucking Canadian.
This is so Trudeau.
I want to be Captain Canada right now. Okay, I deliberately wore a red and white striped shirt right now because we're talking about Canada.
Listen, for a new immigrant who stays there only 6 months of the year, I'm pretty patriotic towards Canada. Probably
more
far
so than
more
anyone
than
in your
people who stay
government.
there.
I want to be.
Why are we not discussing this? Okay, China has imposed an additional 100% tariff on Canadian rapeseed meal, and peas. Additionally, a 25% tariff will be levied on Canadian aquatic products and pork. This was reported. And then the country that I am a citizen of, right? India. And where was this news broken? The first, even before any mainstream media in India picked this up, because I knew this was coming. One of the major exports of Canada to India from Saskatchewan is lentils. Guess what? And now, this was a report by Dhirendra Kumar for the Mint. Canada is the top supplier of masool dal, lentils to India, followed by Australia and USA. Guess what Trump is doing? And this is exactly what I had predicted, that Trump is playing this very convenient game, that he's going to start selling lentils to India. And there are 3 American provinces that can do it. And Canada is going to suffer. But look at what Justin Trudeau is doing. He picks up the one country that they should be doing business with, and they could have actually used India as a great trading partner at this situation. A lot of trade with India could have happened. Canada has the natural things to trade with India. Both the countries benefit. Both countries are actually in many ways very similar. They're non-interventionists, right? We don't go to wars. India doesn't go to wars. Canada doesn't go to wars. And no, Justin Trudeau had to screw this relationship up. Canadians are busy having Canadianos, and there is no scope. And guess what? This was, this is what Justin Trudeau's legacy is. Talking about Justin Trudeau's legacy. And Mocha reported this in the, I don't know if you saw, the Khalistani came in front of the vehicle of our external affairs minister in the United Kingdom. So the British are giving the Canadians a very, very tough
I saw this. This is great.
No, but this is what they call Justin Trudeau, okay? They call him Jathedar Justin Trudeau now.
you guys just yelled Jatada Trudeau. What does Jatada mean?
Jatadar means he's a leader. He's a leader of the Sikh. The leader of this is a Jatadar. Just a leader, just like a leader.
You think Trudeau earned that title?
No. Whoever said that, he shouldn't have said that. He's wrong.
Trudeau is not our Jathedar. Trudeau is good for human rights.
Human rights.
These are Hindustani criminals. Hindutva criminals.
Modi is terrorist. Trudeau is very good leader. Human rights.
Yes, I respect him. He will remembered. He will be remembered when Palestine is made. His name will come in history. Trudeau's name will come. Justin Trudeau. His name will come in history.
Even though he's not a Jatadab, he's pretty up high.
We respect him very highly.
Trudeau future is Khalistan after statue in India. Statue laguga.
They will put a statue of him in India.
In Punjab, Khalistan.
India is not a country. This guy saying when the currency, the notes are printed, his picture probably be on there as well.
Okay.
That's how much they respect him.
Oh, very.
All because he's brought the criminals. They showed what these criminals are doing.
Trudeau is the first man who talk about the human rights for us.
Palestine is coming very soon. And Canada will be one of the first nations to be invited up there over there. Like with the Five Eyes, Canada will be one of the first.
So good reporting by Mocha there. But this is Justin Trudeau's legacy. This is Canada's legacy. And this is why India is not buying lentils from Canada.
Yeah.
Ranjit Anyways, oh man, these guys are so. And at a time like this, you would have thought, no, it's not. It isn't sensible. We should not be talking about these things. These are not sensible things. Justin Trudeau should mend his ways with India. They should. By the way, there is a CSIS delegation now coming to India. And Daniel knows we cannot disclose how and why, but CSIS had started reaching out to its Indian counterparts a while ago. Suddenly things had changed, and now CSIS is making an official visit to India. Wait, let me pull that news up for you. I know this for a fact. Yeah, so Canada's Intel chief. This was reported by Siddhant Sibal. Wyon News had reported this. Siddhant had shared this. Siddhant works for Wyon. So I'm just sharing Siddhant's tweet here. Siddhant had written this article. And this is a good start. I'm glad that intelligence sharing has started again between India and Canada. Listen, we have messed this relation up royally. So this is the tweet by Siddhant. Exclusive, Canada's Intel chief, CSIS chief, to visit India to attend annual intelligence gathering. Intel chief from India's Western partners from West Asian countries to also visit. This is a welcome decision. I'm glad this has happened. We need intelligence sharing amongst the two countries. We are two mature countries and this should happen. But listen, I don't want a Canadian Prime Minister to be called a Jathedar of Khalistan. And his statue is going to be built in Khalistan. It's deeply disrespecting to me as someone who likes Canada a lot. This is deeply disrespecting.
Oh, yeah. Listen, the only country that we can have free trade with is going to be the fictional nation of Khalistan. The only country that wants to trade with us isn't real. How did this happen?
This is so depressing. This is so depressing. I don't know. And on the other hand, if you just go to the Indian and American discussion on tariffs, right? All right, Donald Trump pressurized India. Prime Minister Modi went there. They had a discussion off the record, not like Zelensky yelling and screaming on a microphone. Zelensky is a loser. I'm sorry. I love Ukrainian people, but they need a better leader. Zelensky is not one of them. And listen, America is going to get a lot of stuff. India is going to get a lot of stuff. They're going to reduce tariffs on both ends, and it's going to be good because the sticking point for India is going to be, why do you protect your agriculture? Why you want us to stop protecting our automobile market? So America is going to give a bit, India is going to give a bit, and that's how you do business. And it's depressing. And now I'm going to go to the last bit. Okay. Now, before I talk about Patrick Bet-David's 6-minute spiel on Pierre Poilievre, Pierre did respond to beyond retaliatory tariffs and all that riffraff on the Trump bit. He was interviewed by Brian Lilly, and this is what he said. I think these 2 minutes are very important. So let me play Pierre's response on what is he going to do with the American problem.
Tell us what you think we should be doing to respond, because retaliatory tariffs, that's short-term stuff. Trump's going to unleash their economy. What do we do?
Unleash ours. We need to grant permission to Canadian businesses to build pipelines, mines, LNG liquefaction facilities that can get our gas on a boat so it can go off to Asia and Europe and break European dependence on Putin while turning dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people. In other words, bring home our resource jobs. You have to repeal the anti-energy law C-69 that Trudeau, Carney, Liberals put in place.
That every premier of every political stripe has opposed and taken to court and won at.
Absolutely. The unconstitutional C-69 that Carney supported. We need to massively increase our resource production, approve pipelines for construction to get our oil to both the Pacific and the Atlantic. We need to compress the time it takes to get a mine approved from 17 years today to it should be about a year to approve a mine. We should have the fastest building permits anywhere in the OECD. I'm also going to pass a massive bring it home tax cut on work, investment, energy, and home building.
Now, why would you do that? Because a lot of people hear tax cuts and then they say, oh, well, we've got to cut something then.
Well, look.
As in cut services.
Right now, the taxes are so much higher in Canada than they are in the US. That's why $500 billion has left our country for the American economy. Why do you think Mark Carney moved his headquarters to New York? Why do you think he, while he was at Brookfield, moved so many billions of dollars out of Canada into the United States, taking our jobs and giving them to the Americans? Because the U.S. economy is much lower taxed and it's easier to do business there. So the reality is, as long as we have higher taxes, significantly higher taxes on work, investment, home building, energy, our jobs are going to continue to flow south even without tariffs. We need to bring that money home.
I think he's making sense. I think he made a lot of sense here. I think that's a very mature response. Now, you've been very critical of Pierre. I saw your tweet. It's not that I ignored it, but okay, you criticizing Pierre, I get it. What is Patrick Bet-David on about? Okay, I'm going to play this clip from PBD. I just want to play this. I'm not going to play the whole 7-minute shebang.
He's a grifter. He's grifting on a Canadian market. It's just grifting. I mean, the answer is just grifting. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, but
the answer is grifting. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm
but
spoiling I'm spoiling it for everyone. You haven't seen it. Grift incoming.
Here's what's funny. Think about who, as a world leader, has a shittier resume than him and a worse approval rating. The fact that people are done with him. And even with that, Pierre Poilievre couldn't beat him.
That's what's the sad part.
Well, you know why it's not sad? Because every time we invited Pierre, arrogant, pompous team, the only podcast he ever did is Jordan Peterson. So let me get this straight. You saw Milei win because he went everywhere. You saw Bukele win, he went everywhere. You saw Trump win because he went everywhere. You saw Bobby win because he went everywhere. You saw Vivek become a superstar because he went everywhere. And you don't, you deserve losing. And you didn't win. And I said that to Canadians who love him. The candidate you adore and admire and love doesn't want to work. God forbid he has to cross the border and go talk to other borders to bring attention. God forbid, too much travel time. He's got to eat his apple. He's got to eat his apple because he's got to get his apple. in a system. Go to New York, do a damn podcast outside of Jordan Peterson. Go do Joe Rogan's podcast.
Okay. Wait, what? Has he read Canadian polls?
Yeah. So
he's losing?
In some ecos. Frank Graves. So there are some polls that are saying the Liberals are winning right now. Sometimes every now and then Frank Graves puts out a poll and says, and we discover this. But Peter, he thinks he already lost to Pierre around. Like, well, listen, this is a problem for Pierre. And my problem with him is he's not setting the narrative. And he's not good at this. So Pierre's very good in these scenarios. Like, yeah, who's watching the Brian Lilly podcast, though, right? Like, or the Brian Lilly show. It's people who already agree with him and he's saying the right things. But his communications are annoying Canadians because I see it here in Canada. So I have like the Poilievre advertisements keep coming up on YouTube and whatever, and like and wherever you're watching videos. Like the attack ads are just carbon tax Carney. He's just like Justin, the carbon, like the charm of Poilievre is his ability to sort of sit down and talk with you in these great videos. The failure of Poilievre right now is he's not acting like a leader, right? And for too long, right? So there's also a lead up to this. Before this America crisis, and I know this for a fact, I didn't speak to other people spoken to the Conservative Party, and I knew it before they even spoke to Conservatives. The Conservatives, for the last 6 months, had shut down the campaign. Shut it down. They were up 20 points, so they put it on cruise control. That's what they did. They put it on cruise control. They said, we have a slogan, axe the tax. We're going to axe the tax, build the jobs, fight the crime, blah, 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 blah. That's what we're doing. That's what we're saying. Put it on autopilot. Nothing else. So the only messages they were putting out, the only things people saw was, oh, it's Diwali. Well, they didn't do Diwali. Everything except Diwali. Happy everything except Diwali was the Conservative thing. And people started to parody it. Like, oh, the ink in mind. Like people, that just became his thing. And then he's knocking doors with a Calistani who used to be Jagmeet's friend out in Surrey. And this is the only thing people were seeing from him. So now he has to come back and do this thing again. But what he should have been doing is keeping his foot on the gas. And then once the election came, he had a brilliant chance to win and defeat Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland in one shot. And what he should have done, but I know the people inside the party would have said, don't do that. When they started to back down from the carbon tax, his big thing, Poilievre should have said, great. Looks like everyone's getting rid of the carbon tax because my platform is being adopted. I will continue to put out things, but basically he should have declared himself Prime Minister of Canada at that point. Basically gone out and said, looks like everyone's adopting my plan. I think the Liberals acknowledge I'm the best leader of Canada. Canadians acknowledge it right now. We're going to buy with the democratic process, and then I'll be Prime Minister. But I'm going to start. Okay, so and then start talking. So when I'm Prime Minister, and then start acting like the Prime Minister. That's how Mark Carney got back in the polls, because Mark Carney's acting like the Prime Minister, and the media's pretending he's the Prime Minister. It's all
Mark Carney got back in the polls through that and not taking any questions from the media.
Yeah, and Wyatt got kicked out of a Carney thing. Yeah, and Carney's such a dictator, right? So this is why Carney needs an election right away, because if he becomes Prime Minister, eventually that bubble's going to get burst. He's going to have to answer questions in a scrum, and he's going to have to go on the record on something. And once Mark Carney puts his opinions out about something, it's not going to go well in the general population. So that's my thing is Poilievre is like, they're reactive, they're not proactive, and they're letting the Liberals set the narrative. The sports analogy is they're playing not to lose, right?
Yeah,
football.
I don't know. I don't know what the hell the Conservative Party of Canada is. Listen, Canada is an amazing country that deserves better. It deserves better. It deserves better leadership. Trudeau and the Liberals and the NDP. For fuck's sake, you have a Khalistani leading a Canadian political party. Do Canadians realize how stupid and ridiculous is this? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's just take all the other questions and let the Wyatt mentioned that one of the reasons why Ford called Ontario elections was the pay for Jagmeet, not calling a federal election. So Jagmeet can claim we had just an Ontario election. We need time to prepare for federal election, voter fatigue. Okay, Wyatt, that's an interesting point Wyatt made. I mean, Wyatt's not here to explain his point of view, but unfortunately, because he had a family thingy. But Yeah,
we will kidnap and hold Wyatt's family ransom.
We'll get him next week. How about this? We get Wyatt next week. We'll get Wyatt next week
by taking his family hostage.
Yeah, and Clyde has
we had Canada support kidnapping.
really pissed off with Pierre Poilievre. Clyde is pissed off with Pierre Poilievre too. I think he's way more pissed off with Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, everyone like these Canadians can see we know the loser talk from the Conservatives. We know when they start to fumble and blah, like they just can't get a win together. And the Liberals set the narrative and set the pace and all this. On that question of like, I definitely do think Doug Ford's decision to call an election the time he did benefited the Liberals. And I mean, it saved the Liberals, the NDP, right? By saying, oh, there was an Ontario election, all the talk of, well, there needs to be an election now. He really, he's not going to endear himself to the federal Conservatives by doing this because the Conservatives had a hard time saying there should have been an election. We shouldn't be having this thing. There should have been an election right now with Ontario having an election at this moment. So Doug Ford's Ontario election benefits Doug Ford, but it also does benefit the federal lefties immensely. So could there have been some backroom politics going on there? Probably. It's Doug Ford. It's Justin Trudeau. It's Canada. Like, I would think so.
So is Canada's Conservative Party truly conservative, and will Pierre Poilievre do more than just push for drilling more oil and cutting immigration? Can they implement any significant reforms like Trump? Well, I mean, with due respect to Trump, what significant reforms has Trump implemented till now? I mean, with due respect to him.
I mean, you would say the vibes of getting rid of the DEI and the Doge, right? The Doging it. Now, how effective is Doge? We still have to see. Like, what is Doge accomplishing?
Come on, man. There's a lot of pushback inside the system for that thing. I don't know how else to say this, but I think Trump supporters need to get out of their echo chamber too.
Yeah. Let's not, we're still in like the first 100 days or whatever. Let's not pretend there's been any wide sweeping reforms. Now, there very well could be, and we could be going there. And with Trump, it's probably a rocky road to there. So we'll see. Now, okay, is the Conservative Party Canada actually conservative? And the answer is yes. Okay. Now, there is a question of, is it as conservative as you would like? And is it, and there's different levels to it. So the level of conservatism in Canada, it's a Canadian conservative. So it's always been, less libertarianist focused and more sort of, systems, monarchy, culture, and a bit of that stuff. Poilievre's a bit inverted, right? Where Poilievre is new. He's sort of a new breed of Canadian conservative, where he's taken actually the more American, classical American, libertarian-esque conservative to him, which people say, oh, more American like Trump. Well, no, Trump is very much not that guy. He's something else. So is Poilievre the Conservative Party conservative? Yes. Now, the question is, are they honorable? Are they courageous? And do they have the courage and honor, let's say, these je ne sais quoi, to get their actual conservative principles implemented in a way that is satisfactory? The question is still out. But I am disappointed with Pierre. I'm going to go vote for Pierre Poilievre. And I don't care, if I have to survive enemy fire.
Yeah.
I will brave enemy fire from the Russians, from the Americans, from whoever, to vote against Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland, whatever the Liberal Party is.
Yeah, Pierre has my vote too. If I was a registered voter in Canada, he would have my vote too.
Yeah. So
yeah,
Pierre is actually, and like, again, you can't just I don't think you can dismiss like the importance of like the economy and like pipelines and energy. Like, as I say, energy is the most important domestic and foreign policy metric. Like, without energy, that's like your first leverage in your economic wealth. Like that's your stat bar, right? If you're gonna turn countries into like the game Civilization, I haven't played it, but I assume you're like clicking on resources, building houses and whatever. Like, energy is sort of like your resource bar. So if you need, right, if you want to like buy troops or invest in schools or anything, whatever, like the resource bar. And the conservative philosophy of growing the resource bar in Canada is actually very important because the Liberals do not believe in growing the resource bar and improving our stats, so to speak. They believe in a controlled economy and manage it. They think we're a service economy, not a resource economy now, and they can regulate, and they think they can keep moving papers and hats and rabbits around to create an economy, and it ends up just being a money laundering scheme by the end of it. So, yeah, he is conservative in that. If you mean like, will he go like full Leroy Jenkins and all the woke and cut out all the DEI? Now, he has promised to cut DEI, so it's not like Pierre's ignoring this. He does want to sort of cut the DEI diversity things. The problem is he has some DEI hires, especially the finance minister right now. So I understand what people are saying with this question, and it's also the source of a lot of our frustrations. But I find it very childish and people to be, at best, intellectually dishonest when they say there's no difference between Poilievre and Trudeau. That's insane. It's insane, right? But you can say, okay, yeah, there's a difference between Poilievre and Trudeau, but on these metrics, I don't think they're that dissimilar. So, right, there's a nuanced conversation to be had. But sort of the blanket PPC, it's all the same, right? It's the uniparty. I don't find that productive. I don't find it that accurate, and I don't find it's a good way to change people's minds. Because if you want to actually, get people to understand Poilievre's flaws and the flaws of the Conservative Party, I think you have to be specific about what you're complaining about, which is why, like, we talk about, like, okay, here's infiltration from Khalistan right here. Here's too much pandering to different minority groups instead of pushing forward a sense of nationalized Canadian identity, which is really important right now. After 10 years of Trudeau, I don't need happy Passover, okay? Like, yeah, Passover's coming up, and happy Ramadan, happy Passover, happy Easter. Yeah, okay, we all do that. But more important for me than happy Passover right now is Canada being a Canada. Canada is good, right? And I think we want to see messaging, cultural messaging from Pierre. Right now, the only election messaging is economic, right? I think people want to see a well-produced, happy sort of Poilievre, like, we've been told Canada is bad. We're being told that Canada is no good, that Canada is evil. But Canada is good, and I'm going to bring that back and highlight our goodness. We're getting away from the Canada self-hatred and the whatever, because we need to be strong right now. I think that's what people want to see, and the Conservative Party is, again, always I think they know this idea, but they still need to process the idea through the Conservative Party brain trust, which will take a few months, and I'm not sure they have the time.
Jenny Byrne needs to approve it using 3-4 polls. Yep,
Jenny Byrne needs to look at a polling group and a focus data, and then they'll see. And this was the good thing about Pierre is Pierre has a bit of life to him, has some pizzazz, right? Has a bit of a spark in his eye. So
like I said, with all the flaws, he should get the vote.
He should get the vote. And Pierre's ability is, if they understood his ability is in moments like this. If you have a good idea, it's like, hey, Pierre, we need to say something like Canada is good. Pierre and the team could spend a night writing it, and then Pierre can get there in front of a camera and be like, I'm Pierre Poilievre, and Canada's a good place. We're told Canada's evil. We're told Canada's genocidal. Okay, say there's a racist, and everything's racist and whatever. We're not that. We're a good country. And it's time to defend ourselves because we're a strong country. We're good because our grandparents marched to meet Hitler on the field of battle. So we will march again. Like, say something like that. Say something, right? Because, again, the other thing Conservatives don't understand, they should understand because they're in politics, and people don't vote with their heads. Easily less than 10%, maybe around 5% of the voting population votes with their heads. Most people vote with their heart or their stomach, whatever you want to call it, their gut.
Yeah.
What they feel. And that's the vast majority of people voting. Yeah, there's some policy wonks out here, and maybe there's some true psychopaths in the chat that vote on foreign policy like I do. Right? Like maybe to some people out here, foreign policy matters when you're voting. Maybe. I know it doesn't. It matters to me, but like I'm not crazy enough to pretend that it matters to everyone. But people vote with their hearts, and if you let the Liberals control the narrative, which is we're gonna be Team Canada, and they push that patriotism thing, and patriotism's in here, right? The Liberals aren't trying to convince anyone up here. No one is listening to liberals up here. The liberals are going after this, and Pierre is staying up here, and that's his problem.
Yeah, and for the record, this is Karima proving she was disappointed about being denied entry to Mark Carney's campaign event for several reasons. One, press freedom restricted, unfair treatment and discrimination, no access to fees. Yeah, I mean, come on. I think Karima has a point. I mean, who won't want pizza? I think she has a point. And by the way, this is very interesting. Why is RCMP officer being given to Mark Carney, who is a private citizen? Would you and I get a private privilege like this? Why is this RCMP officer with Mark Carney?
Because
he's a private citizen.
He understands the optics. The liberals have decided to make him act like he's prime minister, and that's why he's doing so. Liberals don't care about free speech or what all this. This is how you win a leadership race. Mark Carney, they're treating him like he's the king of Canada, so people see him like this, and then they vote for him. These are one of the things you can do when you pay the entire media and the entire establishment's corrupt. Like, okay, this is also why I get the Trump tariff talk. Even if Trump really wanted to put tariffs on us because of fentanyl and all this and this and this, there is a real serious problem Canada has with its security establishment. And we've been talking about this before Trump came with the tariffs. The RCMP ceases. The leadership has been corrupted by the Liberal Party. There are too many liberal sycophants in our intelligence agencies, and they're doing the bidding of a political party and not of the country. And that's leading to problems in, terrorism enforcement, all enforcement, ideological turns. It's dangerous for Canada, and it's an actual danger to America because they share a border with us. I understand the concerns about how crazy woke Canada is and why that's a security threat. I totally get it. And this is a symptom of the same things that do that. But hey, you got to respect them. They're at least good at politics. They understand, make him look like a king. People will see him like a king. And this is what Pierre needs to understand. Start acting like the prime minister and make people feel like they want you.
So let me answer this. I'll take this one. He's aware of Khalistan, but there are reasons that I can't say on the camera. I mean, there is a little bit of shady stuff that happens in the Conservative Party too, but they are very much aware of it. And listen, this is where Donald Trump comes in handy.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. Yesterday in the India Today session, Rajdeep asked Mike Pompeo, the former chief of CIA, about Khalistan. Straight up a Khalistan question. And he gave the answer without giving any answer. It was a very interesting bit. And everybody understood what was happening. And the Trump administration is going to deal with this issue. And see, I don't mind a Trump when he goes after India like this. I'm just going to play this clip.
And then you just go right down the line. India charges us massive tariffs, massive. You can't even sell anything into India. It's almost restrictive. It is restrictive. We do very little business inside. They've agreed, by the way, they want to cut their tariffs way down now because somebody's finally exposing them.
Good. You know what? Good. This is an Indian talking. I think Donald Trump has said the right thing. India does tariff the shit out of many products. And you know what? Good on Donald Trump because he had the wherewithal to deal with India. But what he will do is he'll cut a good deal with India, which will benefit both the countries. This is what Canada should have done. Canada did not do. And that's where Canada right now has a fight with America, China, and India. Amazing. Only Russia is left.
Amazing. Well, Russia also hates us. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Trudeau is truly, I don't think people respect Trudeau enough. Okay? All the world's major players hate this guy. He can suck up to China. He can say, I admire your basic dictatorship. There are no expectations of human rights from you guys. In fact, I love your human rights abuses because it makes green tech. Another thing you do so great is steal intellectual property. That's why you need to be sanctioned, China, because you're thieves. You're thieves of the world's creativity. And you're destroying global progress. You miscreants. You cheating, lying, communist miscreants. Now, Justin Trudeau doesn't say that. He says, I love you. Then he gives them power in our parliament. We have 11 Chinese spies in the parliament. And with all of this, You would think, one would think that the Chinese would at least give us something for this. That being a vassal of the CCP has benefits with China. You would think by capitulating to China on literally everything and admiring how well they murder minorities. Oh, we love the occupation of Tibet so much. Here's a tariff. How do we get tariffed by China? How? How?
Well,
like I don't mind being tariffed by China if we're like, screw these commies, and then because screw those commies. But how do we go? I love these commies to tariffs. How? How did he do this? How did little potato get away with this? How does this happen? Someone make it make sense. Amazing. I will not hear any Justin Trudeau slander anymore. He is by far the greatest idiot the world's ever produced, the greatest failure of all time. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear anyone else proposed as a bigger ding dong than this idiot.
Yeah, and Donald Trump made him cry, and I you know what? I'm not mad at Danielle Smith about what she says over here.
This over the last few months, it's around what we do beyond counter tariffs, and in particular around energy exports. I've asked a number of federal ministers, what they're prepared to do, because clearly you would not provide your consent for that, and neither would Scott Moe. They have never unequivocally said that they would proceed without that consent, just that they would not want one region to unfairly shoulder the burden, essentially, of our response. If the federal government can compensate Albertans, for example, for whatever losses they end up taking, should that be the route they decide to pursue? Why is that not satisfactory for you? Like, why doesn't that add up? Because I think to a lot of Canadians, that would be one way out of it.
Well, I noticed Ontario Premier Doug Ford didn't ask for a tariff on electricity. He imposed a surcharge himself so that he could receive the money, so that he could make sure it was directed to his people. And I must tell you, there's no circumstances under which I would acquiesce to a major tariff being put on Alberta Energy to go to Ottawa so Ottawa could decide how it's distributed. And quite frankly, the trust is gone with the federal government. They canceled pipelines. They've banned exports off the West Coast. They have put in a net zero power reg. They talked about an emissions cap. So if you think I'm going to believe that they'll take $40 billion out of our economy and just trust them that it's going to come back, I don't. So no, it's not on. We're not going to agree to that. And nor should Ontarians and Quebecers want us to, because if the Americans retaliate by putting also restrictions on energy, it's Ontarians and Quebecers who are going to be harmed by that. 100% of the product that they get to heat their homes and run their cars comes from the United States. So just know that I'm acting in the interest of all of the country and saying that you don't want to play a war on energy. Canada will be worse off for it.
You know what? She sounds more and more sensible with every passing day. Every passing day. This woman, she's actually one of the most sensible politicians of Canada. I wanted to.
Yeah, good thing. But I want to clarify my thing, because I did sort of praise Doug Ford for threatening to do everything Danielle Smith was criticizing. I will say, Ford, what I'm saying, is better than just a Waverly Washy half measure on energy. So I technically think the Smith position and the Ford position are the two ones you should choose from. So Smith's saying, hey, let's leave energy out of this. Let's not go nuclear and just go full. Let's say no and start closing doors here. That's one negotiation tactic that can use. And the other one is just going full maximalist right at the time. I'm fine with kind of either of those two, because you can go full maximalist, then have everyone back off and be like, okay, I'm not doing this. And then there are no tariffs. So I am saying, like, my backing of Ford there is just on you either do something or you don't do something. So if you're gonna threaten to do something, might as well be an actual thing. But that's my point.
Found this photo to be very funny. I made Trudeau cry. I think this is Cat Canada. Yeah, she had shared it. This is so funny. I made Trudeau cry. I love it. Anyways, we'll wrap up over here, guys. As always, to everyone who asked the questions, thank you very much. To everyone who tuned in live, thank you very much. To everyone who's going to watch this later, thank you very much too. And Listen, if you want to keep supporting this, like I said, now we're back. We're going to be on our weekly schedule. We'll take the news of the whole week, and Daniel and I will try to get Wyatt next week. Maybe he was not there. Daniel will reach out to Wyatt, and we'll start getting more guests like we always did. The Canadian news beat is back every week. I will get up in the morning like a good kid, because I'm in India right now, so I have to get up in the morning, and we'll do this show as per the privilege and ease of Canadian listeners. This is not about our Indian listeners. This is about our Canadian listeners on this podcast. So we'll do this at a leisurely time for Canadians in the night, where they can sit back, relax, and tune in. And then the rest of the day is always there for people in India to watch. And if you want to support Daniel's PayPal account, where you can send direct donations to Daniel too, and his X handle is there in the description of the podcast. If you want to send me donations from Canada, you can use Interac Canada and send your donations to kushalmehra81@gmail.com. It's very interesting. Somebody said waiting for my Galidas tea. So yeah, if you want to buy this t-shirt, you can place your order on kushalmehra.com, or you can go on Kadak Merch, whichever venue you want to go to. There are many other teas too. You want to buy them, you can go and buy them. And if you want to send your donations in India, you can use UPI, which is kushalmehra@ICICI. If you really want to support the Cārvāka podcast, I mean, you can buy my book, Nastic, also. The link will be there in the description of the podcast. You can also join the membership program of this podcast on YouTube or on Patreon. If you can't do anything, just follow me on X, follow Daniel on X, leave a nice comment in the comment section, like this video on YouTube, subscribe to this podcast channel, and also tune into the entire playlist. If you go on the on the podcast main page, there in the playlist, there is a playlist called Canada. As always, we'll try to cover all the latest news in Canada. Until then, take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.